Sup everyone, I'm your female otaku, and this is a very special vlog, my first cooking video. Okay, so I don't personally like to cook, but I went to a Yaki Udon and Bento workshop. If you're interested in learning how to make Yaki Udon, then stick around. For all of you Bento lovers, that part comes in later, so please sit tight. With all that said, let's get started.
I went to the Morris County School of Technology in the Culinary Arts Academy, and I'm here to make Yaki Udon.
This is Caroline, a former culinary arts student of 4 years. She'll be teaching us how to make Yaki Udon. Then we'll have some.
Yes, they're really good. We're gonna make a vegetarian one, and we're also gonna have a chicken one. We have some carrots and cabbage. We have mushrooms, scallions, and onions. So I did a lot of the prep work already just because it takes a really long time, but we can go over some of the more basic cuts. So for example, we have the carrot. And does anyone know what a julienne cut is?
Yep.
Okay, cool. Well, it looks like this. It's like a small little like matchstick kind of thing. And so we want to put the carrot into julienne. I'm actually going to turn up the water. So to make the julienne, we're going to want to start by halving it. And then from there, I'm just going to cut that into strips. Okay, so that's basically how you're going to do that cut. We also have our cabbage, so I washed the cabbage really well because especially when you get things like cabbages or lettuce, you find a lot of like bugs in them or like sand, so you really have to wash that well. So it looks like this before, but much bigger. You're just going to pull off the leaves kind of, and you're going to bunch them together. And then I'm doing 3 cuts this way, or 4 cuts, because you want to make it into small little squares, like bite-sized. You have your cabbage there. And then I already did the onions, but didn't want to make you guys cry, so I'm so considerate. But you just kind of like took the onion and just sliced it. Now for mushrooms, does anyone know why we don't wash mushrooms?
Flavor?
No? No, because mushrooms are super absorbent. So you know when you cook them and they kind of like reduce down and like this liquid comes out of them? Well, since mushrooms absorb so much water anyway, you don't really want them to absorb anymore. So you're just going to take a wet little cloth, and they have a lot of dirt on them, so you're just going to kind of want to brush that off and clean them like that. We're taking out the stem for this. But you see there's like chunks of dirt. It's not great, guys. And then you're just simply going across. Okay, and then we're adding scallions to this too. So the best part of the scallion actually is you want the white part to like here-ish maybe. It's not great to have these ends here. They're just not as good. So we're going to cut off the root. We're going to cut off the parts that look dead, so like this, and like most of this. So I know in a lot of like soups you usually see that green part just kind of like floating around, but it's actually not really a great part of the scallion. You want like this pale colored part. Just gonna wash that. It's kind of like slimy, so you want to get off that slime. Okay, just kind of like break that out now. So the scallions and the mushrooms are going in last because we kind of want them to retain their like color and shape. So does anyone know what's going to go in first?
Cabbage?
No.
Carrot.
The onion is actually going in first.
What did I think of?
Because we're going to actually cook the onion on a really low heat because we want it to turn out like translucent. So if we put it on a really high heat right away, it's going to turn brown really fast. So okay, we don't actually need this much scallion, so I'm going to stop there. Now I saved the chicken for last. I didn't cut any of it because obviously we don't want to cross-contaminate anything, and especially since we have vegetarians here, we're not going to get any chicken on anything. Got chicken here. So we're probably going to start off by butterflying this. So what you're going to do is from the side, just going to kind of want to cut down. And they do this a lot in restaurants if they want like a smaller piece of chicken, because it's really big and it's not going to cook otherwise. Sometimes you can just separate it if you want. So I'm going to just cut off all the fat and sinew and stuff, because that just makes it tough and kind of like hard to work with.
Wait, what did you say about chicken is the most prone to what?
It's the most prone to foodborne illness. So for example, beef is actually really quite clean. Chicken though is you can get salmonella really easily from it. So with any like muscle, we want to shorten the strands of it. So we're going to end up cutting against the grain of the muscle, making it pieces more short and tender, I guess.
Oh.
So that way it just becomes more flavorful, less dry. So we're going to make these bite-sized pieces because it's for the noodles, obviously. It makes it nasty.
Is there like a specific way to cut that stuff out? Because I know I have difficulty like cutting it out when I'm trying to cook chicken. So
I mean, yeah, there's definitely, there's a whole process if you want to deconstruct the chicken, and it's then like, you kind of just like follow the sinew lines, and it's actually really easy to deconstruct a chicken. But when you get it to be like a chicken breast or something, you just kind of like go around it and just take the tip of your knife and just release the bits of sinew. Just makes it easier.
okay.
So I'm going to want to make the pieces thin enough that they're going to like cook really easily and fast. For anyone who's ever done any cooking, they'll know how awful electric stoves are.
Yeah.
Yep.
So especially they're really bad for Asian cooking. So this should be interesting. But
The best is if you get a turkey fryer and you
Turkey
get rid of the
fryer.
pot and you just use the burner it comes with.
I
That'll
don't have a
get
turkey fryer.
that'll
so
get
I mean,
that'll get almost as hot as like the kind of stove you'll see in like a Chinese restaurant.
really.
It gets almost as hot, not quite.
Okay, so we want to just have a good amount of oil. This is canola oil. You can also use it with sesame oil sometimes. When I make it at home, I usually just go with normal vegetable oil. So if you want a brown color on any piece of meat, you want to put it in when the oil is really hot. You get problems like things sticking to pans and like a dull color when you start off with like cold oil and you're putting things in there. So if you really want a nice color, you have to start with a hot pan.
Wait, what did you say about the brown color?
If you want like a brown color on any piece of meat, you have to start with like the oil being really hot. Especially, it's like if you're making waffles and you put the waffle batter in a really cold waffle iron, it's gonna like stick to it, and it's going to be like pale and just kind of gross. So you always want your pan to be really hot when you're putting anything in there. Normally you would put the chicken in a big pan, and then you would add like all the vegetables to it. But because we're making it vegetarian too, we're just gonna add chicken in at the end. Our water is also ready for whenever we want to add the noodles.
What kind of seasoning is that?
Oh, this is just pepper, salt and pepper. And then salt is just great. You can really add a lot of salt to things, and it just really improves the flavor.
Do you usually like put the seasonings beforehand or?
Usually it's after, but because we're doing the chicken separate, it's not going to get all the flavors unless we season it now, so. We can probably start to add our onions now. Onions are going to take a while. Well, you want the onions to caramelize, so you're going to put them in a pan, and you put like a ton of salt on them, and you put more onions, more salt, more onions, more salt, and you kind of just like let that sit there for like a really, really long time, and they get like really brown and really nice and very sweet. But we're not doing that. We're just making them so they're really chewy and sweet, and they lose their bitterness.
What looks like spaghetti?
It is.
I thought it was like packaged.
It is basically spaghetti.
I thought udon was thicker. Is that soba? Or back?
Yeah,
Udon.
it gets much thicker when you cook it. Also, I think the brand I have is like kind of thin. So it's not going to get as thick as you usually see in like pictures or whatever. But it was a value pack. How could I say no? Like. this also takes kind of a while.
What's the seasoning next to the soy sauce called?
This one is Hotsuyu. I think the actual name is Metsuyu, but the particular brand is the Hotsuyu.
Okay. This was my first time having Yaki Udon, and I really enjoyed it. Personally, I would have added more soy sauce, but that's just me. Moving on to the Bento workshop hosted by our favorite, Japan Club. Well, it wasn't really so much of a workshop like I thought it was. Instead, we just ate dinner out of bento boxes instead of learning how to make a proper one, because I know there's a certain art form to bento boxes, like you can make your rice ball look like a panda or something like that, and I was really hoping we were going to do that, but we didn't. That's okay. And if you were one of the first 20 people to arrive, then you got to have a bento box that looks like a Game Boy. Unfortunately, I wasn't one of the first 20 people to arrive, so I just ate out of a Tupperware. But the bento box was still really good. They were serving rolled egg, karage, noodles, rice, pickled radish, and stuff like that. I really enjoyed it. Well, I hope you enjoyed this special edition cooking vlog. I'm your female otaku. Sayonara.